If you ever talk with any potential higher study aspirant or the people or the students, those who are planning to come to USA, Canada or Australia for their higher study purpose, for pursuing their master's or PhD here, the mostly asked question that you will get from them is how to send an email, how to send a successful email to my potential or prospective supervisor so that I can convince them to recruit me as a graduate research assistant in their lab, or so that they can help me to get recruited as a graduate teaching assistant in their department. So in my video today I will discuss about this whole process, and my friend, today is your lucky day because I will show you a totally unconventional way which will significantly help you to do better in this journey. So stay with me, I'm coming back to you soon. Hello everyone, welcome back. My name is Atik. I am a doctoral student of mechanical engineering program at University of North Dakota. I started my PhD journey in fall 2018. So friend, let's jump back to our discussion. So did this thing happen with you ever, that you find a professor by navigating their website and you found out that this professor is very suitable for you and your research area is very close or similar to him or her, and you started to thinking yourself that you are a very potential candidate to join in his or her research lab, and you spent a lot of time for reading their publications, journal or conference papers, then making a very customized email for them, and when you send the email to them you didn't hear anything, or even after you hear from them you got something negative, or you got some bad news that their position is already fulfilled, or they are not looking forward to take a candidate like you, or they are looking for someone who is better than you. This is quite common, right? So but what happened, you have already spent a lot of time for reaching to this professor and you actually eventually ended up by getting nothing. Tomorrow which position you were, today you are in the same position, so no gain actually. Okay, so I will show you some way in which way you can maximize your benefit without spending less that much amount of time. Like if you spend less amount of time you can get a better output from this. So let's start. So most of the time what we have heard from our seniors or from our professors, that try to take time for a specific professor, try to go through their profile very precisely, then make a customized email to reach them. But my friend, listen very carefully. You found out a professor who is very close to your research area, okay? And the professor also knows that if he take you or if he hire you, he can be benefited. But the problem is here that if he doesn't have any position, or if he doesn't have any secure funding, then it doesn't matter actually how better or how good candidate you are. He is unable or he is completely failed to hire you, okay? So he cannot hire you, because if I have money then I can give you. If the professor has the money then he or she can give you. But if he or she doesn't has the money, then how they are going to pay you? Okay, this is very simple. So you can only get the funding when your prospective professor or the supervisor will have the funding. Okay, this is very clear. Now how can you know that whether the professor has the funding or not? The best way is to go to the website, and the easiest way, anyone can do this. You went to the website and you found that the professor has the funding. But remember, you are not in the fight alone, okay? There are a lot of students, a lot of candidates from the entire world to compete for the position. So what happened when you write a very precise email and reach to the professor, maybe he is not selecting you and you are getting frustrated, okay? Because there are a lot of candidates, a lot of competitions, and maybe you are not the suitable candidate for the professor. So what happened, you went to the frustration, which is not expected, okay? But at the same time you have already spent a lot of times, okay, which is completely wasted, completely in the garbage. Then the question comes, what is the best way to do so? Here is a trick, my friend. When usually professor publish in their website that they are hiring a new graduate student, most of the cases it can be classified into two scenarios. Number one, a new tenure track professor has joined in your department. he has got some initial funding and he is looking for a prospective students. That is why he has published the advertisement in the website, and some of you noticed it and shared with your community, and the competition became intense. And that what happened in every cases. Okay, there is nothing wrong with it. And the second situation, what a professor is already a tenure track professor, he is already serving a very long time in the department, he has a very strong reputation, and he has secured some government funding like in USA NSF funding. Okay, so he has published in his website that he is looking for a potential student to get help in the ongoing project, so that he can be successful in the NSF project. In that case also, professor published the advertisement, and competition is also very intense in both of the cases. But here is a gray area that we don't know. Apart from the big funding like NSF funding or the initial entry level professor funding, there are some funding which is given by the department, which is departmental funding. Okay, so after coming to the United States, I came to know about this thing. Okay, there are a lot of fundings, like before each and every semester, professors themselves sit in a meeting and the department allocate that how many numbers of graduate student they can take for a specific year. Like my professor get the departmental funding to give funding to me for fall 2018. Next semester maybe another professor will get the funding to do so. So that is how they hire the student. This is another way to hire a graduate student apart from the government funding or agency funding like NSF funding. Okay, that is how professor can do so. And believe me, for most of the time in terms of this type of funding, professor actually doesn't have time to publish this advertisement. So what they do, they actually wait for the application pool. Like when they will get the application pool from the students from entire world, they will find out the best students from the pool. Okay, so but in that case you can utilize this chance, for applying to a United States university or Canadian university, or it can be Australian university. It asks you a huge or lot amount of money, but what it will be happen if you know prior to the application that a potential supervisor or professor is going to fund your PhD or the masters. This is awesome, right? So how can I do so? Even there are a lot of universities in USA, lot of professors in USA. Then how I will know that which professor is going to give me fund? The best way is to do so is no doubt to send an email. Now for sending email, you are also spending a lot of time and you are getting less success. How can I tell you? I found a lot of my friends, those who are still now trying to come to USA or going for Canada for their masters or PhD, but still now 2 years, 3 years, they're still now trying. But even though they failed to get their potential supervisor, yeah, sometimes it's matter of luck, but there are some strategy also that we can follow to enhance our chances. To share about my experience, I can say you that when I was a third year or fourth year student, I made a list of some professor or supervisor who I was planning to send the email after my graduation or just very before my graduation. They were very close in terms of their research with my research. Okay, but believe me, when I sent email to them, mainly two things happened. Number one, some of them said that, okay, I think your research area is very close to me and you have a lot of nice accomplishment, but unfortunately I do not have fund for you. And most of you may hear this. And the second case has happened, is very common, that I didn't receive any response. Okay, this is life is not fair. Okay, so but I already spent a lot of time for going through their publication, reading their research, and send email to them, making a customized email. At that moment, I met one of my seniors from my university who was funded, who was awarded a funding from Texas Tech University and was planning to come to USA for doing his master's. Then he gave me this valuable piece of information. He said that he also found many students, they spend a lot of time for sending customized email to the professor. But actually what happened, if the professor doesn't have fund, he or she will never ever be able to give you the funding. So the best way that he told me, try to reach as much as professor as possible. That means your target should be, you should reach maximum number of professor for asking the funding. Okay, So what he said, just don't waste time for sending a customized email to a professor. Rather try to maximize your chances by sending the maximum number of email to the maximum number of professors. When I initially heard this, I was shocked. I thought that no, this is not a good idea maybe, because I always heard that don't send many email to the many professor. Try to find out the customized, try to make your email body customizable and try to reach to those professor only who have your close research area. But actually it didn't work for me, and it does not work for many of the students. Okay, so the best way is to reach maximum number of professor possible, because the funding, what we know from our country, is actually a very fraction of the funding of the professor. There are many universities and many professors who got the departmental funding to fund their graduate student. Like my department gave graduate teaching assistantship to me, and it is given on behalf of my professor so that she can afford a graduate student like me. Okay, so this is the thing. Before making this video, I have already talked with many of the students, graduate students, and what I came to learn from them, their current research, that what they are doing right now, it's not at all similar or closely similar to their research that they have done in their undergrad level. Then how they find out their supervisor, as their research is not similar, or the work that are doing at that moment, they are doing at that moment is not similar to their earlier work. Then how did they get the funding, right? The thing is that they were able to find out the professor who had the money, who had the funding, and those who had the money, they can only hire you, they can only recruit you. On the other hand, the professor who is very close or very close research area with you, even though they are very close in terms of research with you, they cannot hire you because they don't have funding or the money. So then what my university senior advised me at that moment, which changed my life, what he said me that don't just spend time to make your customized resume or making customized email body before knowing that the professor has the funding or not. So what he told me, make a very generic email body at first, and try to send this email to the list of the professors, and first try to listen from them whether they have the funding or not. If they have the funding, they will go for further discussion. Okay, so I know it's very hard for you to understand what I am trying to say just by listening me. So for that, in the description below for this video, in the first example, I am giving you the exact template of the email that I used. By using this email, I was able to secure 7 interview position, the Skype interview position from the professor. Okay, and one of them at that moment I am now. Okay, so the university and the professor that I am working with, this position was secured also by using this email template. Okay, so this email template I am giving for you in the description box for the first example. Okay, this is a very generic email address. Even in this email, I didn't attach my resume, I didn't attach my transcript also. I just wrote that resumes and transcript are available on demand. You know what I did this? If I send them the resume or the transcript, it doesn't make any sense, because if the professor doesn't have any fund. Okay, so what I did, if the professor find that my profile is good and he or she thinks that I can be a good asset for his research team, then he will automatically ask me, send me your resume, send me your transcript. Okay, so I gave them this chance. So I made a very generic email. I sent to all the professors that I had in my list. Okay, then which professor have the funding, he automatically asked me, send me your resume, Atik, send me your transcript. Okay, then we went for the further discussion, and that is how it is the best way to reach the professor. Make a generic email body and try to send it to all the listed professor. My suggestion is, what is the bottom line? Try to reach as much as professor as possible. Okay, instead of just going for the very customized professor, or instead of just making a very customized email format or very customized resume. There are some benefit also, for doing this. When you send a very generic email to the professor, at the very beginning, and the professor is telling you that, okay, your position, I'm looking for a student, can you please send me your resume? This is a very big chances for you to customize and tailor your resume based on the requirement of the professor. Okay, like for example, when a professor said that, yeah, I'm looking for a graduate student, can you please send me your resume? Then go to the profile of the professor and try to find out what is the research area he is working with, what is his research interest. Try to make your resume according to the research interest of him. And professor also knows that an undergrad student who have just passed, he is not good in research or expert in research. He is hiring the student to train them. Okay, he's hiring the student to train them, so give them the chances. Just show them you have also the same research interest that the area professor is working with. This is enough. But if you have some experience, that is outstanding, good, but not all the time it's the requirement. Okay, so try to follow this advice. Try to follow that email template that I am giving in the description box. Now the first way that I said, it is for general situation, like you are trying a lot but you are unable to reach the professor. Okay, is the general situation, and this is the most successful way to reach the professor. And I personally tried it, and I found that this result is huge, and it's really very, very fruitful. I said you, within 2 months I was able to get interview from 7 of the professors from different universities. So this is really, really, really a hectic way. The second situation is quite common, like you went to the professor website, or you came from any of your senior that professor has got the funding and he is looking for a student. But remember, this is very competitive, and this is not the departmental funding. Professor has a lot of expectation from you, and you are applying. In that case, I will tell you not to follow the general email format. Okay, in that case, try to make a very customized email format for those professors, okay, who you know that they have already published in their website that they got funding and they are looking for students. For reaching to this professor, try to make a very, very customized email, and it should start from your subject line. Like your subject line should be, for example, the professor is looking a student for his aerostructure lab, so your subject line should be potential students wants to join in your aerostructure lab. So when professor will see the subject line, you will see that, oh, okay, this guy has done a little bit of study about me, who is planning to come to my lab. So automatically you will get a very good attention from the professor. Okay, so when you are sending email for a professor that you sure know that he or she has the secured funding from the website, then try to make the customized email. Okay, customized body. And I have one more suggestion, like try to read 1 or 2 of their article, very recent article, and try to find out something interesting from that article, and also mention it in your email about them, that you went through the last paper that he or she has published, and you find that the way he used to find out the result, it was very interesting. Okay, try to express them, try to impress them. Okay, so this is the second scenario, and this is already guided, already suggested by many people in the YouTube and many people in our real life, but unfortunately for most of the students it doesn't work. Okay, so follow my first advice. If you want to get the massive success, try to make a customized email format, email body format, following my example. Okay, then try to reach as much as professor as you can. Like for example, the professor at present I am working with, her research area was not directly related to my research area, but in the interview I showed my interest. And you know, the basic science is same for everything. Okay, the Newton's third law is same for rocket science, and it is same for automobile also. It doesn't need to you don't need to be essentially from the automobile sector. If you are an aerospace engineer, you can still work with an automotive professor. Okay, because the basic principle are same for everything. Okay, so try to show your interest and try to show your motivation to the professor, and follow the guideline that I have given in the first email format. Okay, make a generic email format like that, and try to reach as much as possible. Okay, try to reach as much professor as you can. Okay, and I can guarantee you that when you will do this, when by following this, you can send about 100 or 150 emails in a day to the professor. And there is another myth that people say you that don't send the email to a professor from same university, same department at the same day. You see, professors are very busy, they don't have time to discuss about this. But I have one suggestion. Once you send email to a professor and the professor give you the reply that yes, send me your CV or let's come for a Skype interview, at that moment when you get a response from any of the professor from any university, any department, don't try to reach the second professor of that department until this chapter is closed, okay? But when you are sending email, feel free to send to everyone, but once you hear from any of the professor, immediately stop conversation with other professor, okay? Follow this. So if I want to make a summary of my conversation, many of the students, they just fail to secure a graduate teaching or research assistantship position because they cannot utilize their application time properly, because during this time you have a lot of things in your plate to do, okay? So email is not the only one thing that you should do during that time, okay? So email is a part of your application process. The less amount of time you can spend for email, the more amount of time you can spend for other things, okay? So I recommend you, okay, if you got some professor who is very close to your research area and you definitely know that this professor has the secure funding from government agencies or in other way, try to make customized resume, customized email body for those professor and try to reach to them. This is the best way in that case. But this is not the case for most of the situation, okay? We don't know the professor has the funding or not. In that case, I believe that reaching the maximum amount of professor is the best way to secure your success. So try to follow a generic email body, try to send this email to the maximum number of professor, and let's hear back from them whether they really have the funding or not. And you will see that the best thing of this email is that you can send the same email to all the professor, okay? If you follow my template number 1, and if the professor has really the funding, he or she will ask you, send me your resume, send me your CV. Then you can customize and tailor your resume and CV, also your email body based on the requirement of the professor. So this is the best way to reach your and find out your prospective supervisor for your master's or PhD position. I hope this suggestion is useful for you, and I know this is not a conventional way, but you know, the conventional way actually doesn't work always, okay? So I also followed the conventional way like you, make a customized email, only try to reach to the professor those who are in your field, but the competition is very huge nowadays, okay? And it is not necessary for you to stay in the same field, same track that you already done in your undergrad, okay? This is not the way. So if you want to maximize your chances, so my advice is to follow this video word by word and try to follow the template that I am giving at the bottom of the description box of this video, okay? And I have one request: if you really like this video, feel free to share this video among your friends, family members and community, and I will see you very soon in another video. Have a nice day.